I'm Cassandra Mitchell, 32, and I discovered something that shattered my world. While visiting my sister Rachel, I glimpsed her phone lighting up with a notification from Family Minus Cass. My stomach dropped. As she showered, I checked the messages. My entire family plotting against me. My brother Jason's words glowed on screen, Grandma agreed. Cass gets nothing. In that moment, my family became strangers. Everything I believed was a lie. Before I get into this painful story, let me know where you're watching from. Drop it in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear more stories about family betrayal and how I fought back. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Growing up as the eldest of 3 children, I learned responsibility early. Our family wasn't wealthy, but we weren't struggling either, at least not until later. Mom and Dad Richard and Diane Mitchell had me young at 22 and 21 respectively. Rachel followed 2 years later, and Jason came along when I was 4. From the beginning, I was the serious one, the child who helped with dinner, checked homework, and made sure everyone was where they needed to be. Not because I was naturally responsible, but because I had to be. Mom worked long hours at the hospital as a nurse, while Dad's construction business was unpredictable at best. Grandma Rose was my salvation. She lived just 3 blocks away, in a beautiful Victorian house that had been in the family for generations. When things got chaotic at home, I'd walk to Grandma's where structure and stability awaited. She taught me to cook, to manage money, to carry myself with dignity even when things fell apart. When I was 12, Dad's business collapsed completely. The recession hit the construction industry hard, and poor financial decisions made it worse. That's when Grandma Rose stepped in. She didn't just help financially, she took me in for almost a year while my parents sorted through bankruptcy and moved us to a smaller house. Rachel and Jason stayed with our parents, but I lived with Grandma, attending school from her address and returning home only on weekends. That year shaped everything. Grandma and I developed a bond that went beyond the typical grandmother-granddaughter relationship. We became confidants. She showed me her business records. She owned 3 commercial properties downtown, the Lakeside family property, 2 hours north, and had investments that generated substantial income. "Someday, you'll manage all this," she told me. "You're the only one with the head for it." When I returned home, things had changed. Rachel and Jason viewed me as an outsider. Teacher's pet, they'd mutter, when I got good grades. Grandma's favorite, they'd sneer when she took me shopping for school clothes they didn't get. My parents did little to correct this divide. In fact, they seemed to resent how close I'd grown to Grandma Rose, almost as if I'd chosen her over them. The summer I turned 17, Dad found steady work, but Mom got sick. Breast cancer treatable, but the treatment was brutal. I deferred college for a year to help at home, while Rachel and Jason continued their normal teenage lives. Rachel was in her cheerleading phase, too busy with social activities to help with Mom's appointments. Jason, at 15, was deep into basketball and video games. "You can't put your life on hold for us," Mom said weakly from her bed one day. "It's just a year," I assured her. "NYU will still be there." What I didn't say, my full scholarship wouldn't. By deferring, I lost the financial package they'd offered. Grandma offered to pay, but by then I was hesitant to accept. The family tension around her favoritism had become unbearable. I eventually attended the state university while working part-time. Meanwhile, Rachel got a partial scholarship to a private college, with our parents scraping together the difference. Jason later got a full ride for basketball to Michigan State. Both graduated with minimal debt. I graduated with $42 0-inches student loans. Throughout these years, the Lakeside property became our family gathering place. A sprawling 5-bedroom house with a private dock on Lake Michigan, it had been in Grandma's family for 3 generations. Every summer we'd spend 2 weeks there together, pretending to be the perfect family. I loved that house more than anywhere else on earth. It represented peace, beauty, and the rare moments when my family seemed whole. "This place should always stay in the family," Grandma told me. One sunset as we sat on the dock. "But it needs someone who'll appreciate it, not just use it or sell it." I promised her I would keep it in the family no matter what happened. I meant it with every fiber of my being. The lake house represented everything good about our complicated family. It was where tensions eased, where we created happy memories despite our differences. I couldn't have imagined then that this promise would become the center of a betrayal so deep it would sever all my family ties, or that the siblings I covered for the parents I helped through crisis would conspire to take it all away. After graduation, my finance degree opened doors. Starting as a junior financial advisor at Blackwell Partners in Detroit, I worked relentlessly, climbing from entry-level to senior advisor in 5 years. When a prestigious firm in Chicago offered me a position managing high-net-worth clients with a 6-figure salary, I accepted without hesitation. Chicago mom's voice crackled with disapproval over the phone. "That's 4 hours away. You know your father's blood pressure isn't good." "It's an incredible opportunity," I explained. "And Chicago's not that far. I can visit monthly." Dad got on the line. "We always figured you'd move back closer to home after college, Cassie." Rachel and Jason both stayed in Michigan. What he didn't mention, Rachel worked at a boutique 10 minutes from her parents' house, still living at home at 25. Jason had dropped out of college after an injury ended his basketball career and was finding himself while working part-time at a sporting goods store. "I'll visit often," I promised. "And you can all come to Chicago. I'll have a guest room." The guilt trips intensified as my moving date approached. Rachel cornered me while I packed. "Must be nice to just think about yourself," she said, leaning against my doorframe. "Mom cried all night after you told them." "I've put my life on hold for this family multiple times," I replied evenly. "This is my chance to build something for myself." "We all know you're just trying to be more like Grandma's rich friends," she shot back. "Anything to be the favorite." Despite the tension, I moved to Chicago and thrived. My client list grew, and I started building my own investment portfolio. I kept my promise, visiting Michigan monthly, usually spending a weekend at my parents' and a day with Grandma Rose. I called Grandma twice weekly, cherishing our conversations about everything from politics to her garden. When she mentioned wanting to update her investment strategy, I created a personalized financial plan that increased her returns significantly. Our bond strengthened through my professional expertise. I wasn't just her granddaughter anymore, but someone whose advice she valued. Meanwhile, my siblings' lives stagnated. Rachel finally moved out of our parents' house at 27 when she married Brad, a car salesman with ambiguous career goals. Jason drifted between jobs always, with a new business idea that needed just a little startup capital. The summer I turned 30, Rachel announced her wedding would be at the lake house. I offered to help with planning but was stonewalled. When I arrived 3 days before the ceremony, I discovered why. "We've assigned you to the boathouse," Mom informed me. "Aunt Judith and Uncle Miles need the blue bedroom since they're elderly, and your cousins are taking the other rooms." The boathouse, a glorified shed with a pull-out couch and no bathroom. Meanwhile, Jason and his latest girlfriend occupied the lakeside suite. "Brad's college buddies are in your usual room," Rachel explained, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Grandma Rose noticed. "This is ridiculous," she said when we had a moment alone. "You should take my room. I can stay in the master with a private bath." "It's fine," I assured her, not wanting to create drama during Rachel's wedding. The wedding highlighted my outsider status. I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid, despite Rachel having 6 of her friends in the wedding party. During family photos, I was positioned at the edge, easy to crop out. That Christmas, Jason announced he wanted to open a sports training facility. He needed investors. "I've researched similar businesses," he said over dinner. "With the right backing, I could make this huge." Everyone looked at me expectantly. I'd need to see a business plan, I said carefully. Projected revenue, startup costs, market analysis. His face darkened. Of course, Miss Wall Street needs paperwork. Can't just trust family. It's not about trust, I explained. It's about doing this properly so your business succeeds. Cassandra, Dad interjected. Your brother is asking for help. You're doing very well in Chicago. Would it kill you to be generous? I sent Jason templates for creating a proper business proposal. He never completed them. 6 months later, when his girlfriend became pregnant, he came directly to Grandma Rose instead. She gave him $25,000 as a baby gift. The training facility was never mentioned again. The real breaking point came during last Thanksgiving. Grandma Rose, now 84, made an announcement over pumpkin pie. I've been thinking about my will, she said. It's time to update a few things. The table fell silent. Grandma continued, Cassandra has been helping me organize my finances. I'd like her input on the estate planning as well. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. Mom, is that appropriate? Cassandra isn't exactly neutral here. I trust her judgment, Grandma replied firmly. She understands finances better than anyone else in this family. That night, I overheard my parents in heated discussion with my siblings. I paused outside the den listening. She's manipulating Mom, my mother hissed. Has been for years. Cassandra always was calculating, Dad agreed. Moving to Chicago was just another way to look superior while dodging family responsibilities. Meanwhile, we're here dealing with everything, Rachel added. Doctor appointments, house maintenance, daily check-ins. And what will we get for it? Jason's voice was bitter. Cassandra will end up with everything because she plays the devoted granddaughter once a month. I slipped away sick to my stomach. Their version of reality was so warped, so fundamentally wrong, I couldn't even begin to address it. But I never imagined just how far they would go to rewrite the narrative and my place in it. That fateful day in April began normally enough. I'd taken Friday off to drive to Michigan for Grandma Rose's 85th birthday celebration planned for Saturday. Arriving early, I stopped by Rachel's house to drop off a gift I'd brought from Chicago, a designer scarf she'd mentioned wanting. Rachel was in the shower when I arrived, having given me a key years ago for emergencies. I set the wrapped package on her kitchen counter and sent a text letting her know I dropped it off. That's when I heard the distinctive chime of her phone from the living room couch. I wouldn't normally check someone else's messages, but the notification banner caught my eye, family minus Cass with Jason's name, and the preview text Grandma agreed. Cass gets nothing. My blood ran cold. Family minus Cass. A group specifically excluding me. The shower was still running. Heart pounding, I picked up Rachel's phone. Thankfully, she never changed her password, our childhood street address. The conversation opened to reveal months of messages between my parents, Rachel, Jason, and even Brad and Jason's wife, Melissa. Hands trembling, I scrolled quickly, taking screenshots with my own phone. Mom Rose mentioned Cassandra called again about visiting next month. I told her Cass canceled last minute. Again. Dad good. Keep them separate as much as possible. Rose was upset, but believes it. Rachel Cass sent another gift for Grandma. I forgot to give it to her, just like the others. Jason. The lake house discussion went well. Planted the seed that Cass wants to sell it for investment property after G is gone. She was pissed. Mom perfect. Rose would never forgive that. Brad, my cousin, finalized the fake social media posts. Looks completely real, Cass partying in Vegas when she was supposedly too busy to visit Grandma. Ready to show Rose next week. Melissa, are we sure about this? It seems pretty extreme. Jason. Don't go soft now. Think about our kids having that lake house versus Cass. Selling it to strangers. Rachel attorney meeting confirmed for tomorrow. Dad will bring Grandma to update the will. Cass officially gets cut out, except for the minimum $1 to prevent contests. Mom, almost there. After a year of work, we finally convinced her. Cassandra made her own bed with her selfishness. I nearly vomited on Rachel's carpet. A year of systematic lies. A coordinated campaign to poison my relationship with the person I loved most in the world. The calculated theft of my inheritance was bad enough, but the destruction of Grandma's trust in me was unbearable. Hearing the shower turn off, I quickly replaced Rachel's phone exactly where I found it and slipped out the door. In my car, I broke down completely unable to drive for nearly an hour as violent sobs racked my body. When I could finally see straight, I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot to examine my screenshots more thoroughly. The conspiracy went back even further than I initially thought, almost 18 months of coordinated manipulation. They had intercepted birthday gifts, deleted voicemails, blocked my calls from reaching Grandma's phone at specific times, and even created elaborate lies about things I supposedly said. According to their messages, they'd told Grandma, I called her financial knowledge outdated and useless, claimed I mocked her old-fashioned house, and suggested I found visits with her boring obligations. Most disturbing was evidence they'd been tampering with Grandma's medication. References to making sure she takes the extra pill before Cassandra calls appeared several times. My cousin Lynn, a pharmaceutical rep, had apparently provided something that made Grandma more confused and suggestible. The lake house was clearly the primary target. I'd expressed desire to preserve it exactly as it was, a family gathering place, an eventual retirement home for Grandma Rose as she aged. They'd twisted this into a narrative that I planned to sell it immediately after her death for personal profit. One message from my father made me physically ill. Rose asked about Cassandra again today. I reminded her how Cass said she was too busy making money to waste time with old people. That shut down that conversation quickly. Words I never said. A sentiment I never felt. I sat in that coffee shop parking lot until closing time, alternating between crushing grief and white-hot rage. My family hadn't just betrayed me. They'd orchestrated a sustained campaign of emotional manipulation against an elderly woman who loved me. They'd attacked not just my inheritance, but the relationship itself. By midnight, shock had crystallized into resolve. I wouldn't confront them immediately. That would only give them time to cover their tracks and create new lies. First, I needed to gather more evidence, understand the full scope of their betrayal, and most importantly, find a way to reach Grandma Rose before it was too late. I canceled my hotel reservation and drove to a different one across town, paranoid my family might discover where I was staying. Sleep eluded me that night as I formulated a plan. Trained as a financial advisor, I approached the situation methodically, creating a detailed investigative strategy. First priority, determine whether Grandma had already changed her will. Second, document all evidence of manipulation. Third, assess Grandma's current mental state and health. Fourth, consult legal counsel about potential elder abuse. At 7 a.m., I called Miranda Peterson, Grandma's part-time caretaker. We'd always had a good relationship, and I hoped she wasn't part of the conspiracy. Cassandra, are you in town for the birthday tomorrow? Miranda sounded genuinely pleased. Yes, but I'm calling about something concerning, I replied cautiously. Has my grandmother seemed confused lately? Or has she mentioned problems between us? Miranda hesitated. Well, she's been upset that you keep canceling visits. And she mentioned you hadn't called in weeks, which seemed odd since you used to call twice weekly. Miranda, I've never canceled a visit, and I've called consistently every Wednesday and Sunday for 5 years. The silence on the line stretched uncomfortably. Something strange is happening, I continued. When was the last time Grandma received a package from me? Months ago, she answered slowly. Though Rachel brings things occasionally, saying they're from you. And has my grandmother been taking any new medications? Another pause. Dr. Reynolds prescribed something for anxiety about 6 months ago. Your mother administers it. Grandma's been more forgetful since starting it. My stomach twisted. One more question. Has an attorney visited recently? Yesterday, Miranda confirmed. Your father brought him. Private meeting in the study. After thanking her, I immediately called my attorney friend Bethany from law school. After explaining the situation, she agreed to meet for breakfast. This sounds like textbook undue influence, Bethany said over coffee. Potentially elder abuse too. But proving it won't be easy, especially against a united family front. I have the screenshots, I reminded her. Good start, but we need more. Medical records showing cognitive changes coinciding with this new medication. Evidence of intercepted communications. Witness statements about your consistent attempts to contact your grandmother. While Bethany made calls to colleagues specializing in elder law, I drove to Grandma's neighborhood and parked down the street. From there, I called Lisa at the local florist. Lisa, it's Cassandra Mitchell. I need to verify something. Have my weekly flower deliveries to my grandmother been picked up or redirected recently? Oh, Cassandra, yes, for the past 6 months, your sister has been picking them up. Said your grandmother was allergic to the arrangements suddenly and asked to intercept them. Should I have called you? Another piece of the puzzle. I'd sent fresh flowers every week for years, Grandma's favorite lilies and roses. I thanked Lisa and made my next call to Grandma's neighbor, Mr. Abernathy. Mr. Abernathy, have you seen me visiting my grandmother in the past year? Well, no, the elderly man replied. But your mother mentioned you'd moved overseas for work. England, wasn't it? England, I'd never even visited Europe. Armed with growing evidence of the deception, I met with a digital forensics specialist Bethany recommended. He recovered deleted emails from my grandmother's account. Using her login information, her password had always been my birthday. What we found was horrifying. Emails supposedly from me, but actually created from a fake account, one letter different from my real address, showing terse, cold responses to her warm messages. My actual emails had been deleted before she could see them. The fake account had sent messages saying things like, "Too busy with work to visit this month. Maybe next year. The lake house is becoming a burden. Have you considered selling it? The property values are excellent right now. Tradition is overrated. Sometimes family heirlooms are just old junk. Words I would never say. Sentiments completely contrary to my character." We also discovered evidence of social media manipulation. My brother-in-law Brad's cousin worked in digital marketing and had created sophisticated fake posts showing me at clubs and parties on dates when I'd told Grandma I was working. In reality, I'd been at my desk in Chicago on those nights, often working late specifically to clear time for Michigan visits. The most damning evidence came from Grandma's financial records, which I had legitimate access to as her financial advisor. Small withdrawals. $500 here, $1,000. There had been occurring weekly always when Jason visited. Over 18 months, nearly $30,000 had disappeared this way. My brother was stealing from our grandmother while simultaneously working to cut me out of her will. By late afternoon, I had compiled a substantial dossier, screenshots of the family group chat, evidence of intercepted gifts and communications, testimony from Miranda, Lisa, and others about the deception forged, emails, and manipulated social media content, financial records showing Jason's theft, medical information suggesting inappropriate medication. With this documentation secured, I consulted with senior elder law attorney Margaret Wilson. This is one of the most coordinated cases of undue influence I've ever seen, Margaret said, reviewing my evidence. The good news is, you have substantial documentation. The bad news is, the will may already be changed. And challenging, it will be expensive and traumatic. What about the medication issue, I asked. That's potentially criminal elder abuse through chemical means. We should request a medical evaluation immediately. And the financial exploitation by my brother, also potentially criminal. But Cassandra, she cautioned, proceeding legally means permanently severing family relationships. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the 18 months of lies. The deliberate campaign to destroy my relationship with my grandmother. The gleeful messages planning my disinheritance. They're not my family anymore, I said firmly. They destroyed that themselves. With my evidence secured and legal consultation complete, I was ready for the next phase confrontation. I decided to start with my siblings, keeping the element of surprise. They didn't know I had discovered their scheme, giving me a tactical advantage. I texted both Rachel and Jason. In town for Grandma's birthday. Let's grab dinner tonight, my treat. I have exciting news from Chicago. I selected Castellino's, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Detroit, for our meeting. The public setting would prevent a scene, while the restaurant's private corner booths would provide enough privacy for our conversation. I arrived early, requesting a booth in the back and ordering a bottle of Cabernet, Rachel's favorite. When my siblings arrived together, I noted their relaxed demeanor. They had no idea what was coming. There she is, the big city financial wizard Jason, called too loudly as they approached. At 28, my brother still had the swagger of the high school basketball star he once was, though his physique had softened considerably. Rachel air-kissed my cheek. Love the blazer. Prada. Thanks for the invitation, Jason continued, pouring himself a generous glass of wine. What's the exciting news? Finally met some investment banker who doesn't mind your workaholic tendencies. I smiled tightly. Let's order first. Throughout the appetizer course, I let them chatter about inconsequential things. Rachel's boutique drama, Jason's new training program. I barely touched my food, my stomach a tight knot of anger and anticipation. After the waiter delivered our entrees and left, I placed my phone on the table. So what's your big news? Rachel prompted, twirling pasta around her fork. Actually, I wanted to ask about some family news I've missed, I said evenly. Tell me about family minus Cass. The effect was immediate. Rachel froze mid-bite. Jason's face flushed dark red. What are you talking about? Rachel attempted, but her voice wavered. I turned my phone around, displaying the screenshot of their group chat. This group chat where you've been plotting to cut me out of Grandma's will. The one where you've been coordinating lies to tell her about me. Jason set down his fork with a clatter. You went through Rachel's phone. That's invasion of privacy. Interesting, that's your concern, I replied coldly. Not the elder abuse, manipulation, or theft. Theft, Rachel hissed, looking around nervously. Lower your voice. This is ridiculous. Is it? Should we discuss the $30,000? Jason has been systematically stealing from Grandma's accounts. Or the medication Mom's been giving her to make her confused before my calls. Jason's expression hardened. You've always been dramatic. Grandma's on prescribed medication. For anxiety that mysteriously appeared when you started your campaign. I've spoken with her doctor. He's very interested in reviewing her actual needs versus what's been requested. Rachel's facade cracked first. You don't understand. You left. You went to Chicago and built your perfect life while we stayed behind dealing with everything. Dealing with what exactly? Mom and Dad are healthy and independent. Grandma has a paid caretaker I arranged and finance. That's just it, Jason leaned forward aggressively. You swoop in with your big salary playing the hero from afar. We're the ones who actually stayed. We're family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't manipulate an elderly woman's medication to confuse her. Rachel's voice turned bitter. You were always the favorite, always so perfect. Grandma's special girl who could do no wrong. So this is punishment for being responsible, for building a career, for maintaining a close relationship with Grandma despite distance. You don't need the lake house or her money, Jason countered. You make six figures. I have kids to think about. Kids you use as pawns to get what you want, I shot back. The lake house was never about money for me. It's about respecting Grandma's wishes and preserving family heritage. Family heritage, Rachel scoffed. You'd probably turn it into some soulless vacation rental. I placed more screenshots on the table. Interesting theory. Here's you suggesting selling it to developers for condos once Grandma passes. They exchanged glances, realizing I had more evidence than they anticipated. It wasn't our idea, Rachel finally said, voice small. Mom and Dad started it. They said you'd change, that you were just using Grandma for her money. And you believed that, despite knowing me your entire life. You did change, Jason insisted. Moving away, always too busy for family gatherings. I missed 2 Christmases in 10 years, both because of family emergencies with clients. I've never missed Grandma's birthday or Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter now anyway, Jason said, attempting bravado. The will's been changed. Signed yesterday. It's done. Rachel kicked him under the table, but too late. So you admit it. I gathered the screenshots. You know what's interesting? In Michigan, a will signed under undue influence is invalid. And I have a very compelling case for undue influence, fraud, and elder abuse. No one will believe you over all of us, Rachel whispered harshly. It's your word against the entire family. It's my word plus Miranda's testimony, plus the florist, plus Mr. Abernathy, plus digital evidence of fake emails and social media posts, plus financial records showing Jason's theft. Should I continue? The color drained from both their faces. What do you want? Jason finally asked. Originally, just my relationship with Grandma and her unmanipulated decisions about her own property. Now, justice. I stood, dropping cash for the barely touched meal. You'll regret this, Jason called as I walked away. You think you can take on the entire family? I turned back one last time. You stopped being my family the moment you decided to destroy my relationship with Grandma. I'll see you both tomorrow at her birthday party. I suggest you prepare yourselves. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with messages from the siblings I'd just left. Rachel, we can explain everything if you'll listen. Please don't do anything rash. Jason, you're making a huge mistake. We're still blood no matter what. I ignored them both. The next confrontation would be even more difficult. My parents, the architects of the entire scheme. Instead of returning to my hotel, I drove directly to my parents' house. The suburban colonial where I'd grown up looked exactly the same: meticulous landscaping, warm porch lights, American flag hanging by the door. The familiarity made the betrayal even more surreal. Their cars were both in the driveway. I hadn't called ahead, wanting to catch them unprepared. My hand trembled slightly as I rang the doorbell. Mom answered, surprise registering on her face before she masked it with a smile. Cassandra, we weren't expecting you until tomorrow for the party. We need to talk. I stepped past her into the foyer without waiting for an invitation. Richard, she called toward the den. Look who's here early. Dad appeared in the hallway, remote control still in hand. Well, this is a nice surprise. Were we expecting you tonight? No, I replied coldly. You weren't expecting me to discover the family group chat either, or the campaign to turn Grandma against me, or the medication tampering, or the theft. The transformation was instant. Mom's welcoming expression hardened into something unrecognizable, while Dad's face flushed with anger. So Rachel and Jason couldn't keep their mouths shut, he said, confirming their guilt without even attempting denial. Actually, I discovered everything myself. Rachel's phone remember family minus Cass, cute name by the way. Let's sit down, Mom suggested, voice tight. There's clearly been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding was me believing I had parents who loved me. We moved to the living room, the formal one used for company rather than family. Appropriate since we were no longer truly family. I have all the evidence I began once we were seated. The group chat, the intercepted gifts, the fake social media posts, the financial records showing Jason's theft, the medication interference. All of it. You're being dramatic, Mom dismissed. We were protecting Grandma from your manipulation. My manipulation? I've never lied to Grandma a day in my life. Dad leaned forward. You've been positioning yourself as her financial advisor, inserting yourself into her estate planning. What would you call that? I'd call that using my professional expertise to help someone I love manage her assets effectively. Which is exactly what she asked me to do. Convenient that her effective management would benefit you most in the will, Mom snapped. I've never once discussed inheritance with Grandma. Never. But you've been obsessed with it for at least 18 months. We've been realistic, Dad countered. Your grandmother has significant assets that should stay in the family with those who actually maintained family relationships. I call her twice weekly and visit monthly, despite living 4 hours away. How is that not maintaining a relationship? Those visits, Mom said with contempt. Quick day trips where you swoop in, play the devoted granddaughter, then rush back to your important Chicago life. The bitterness in her voice was startling. This wasn't just about inheritance. This was deeper. You've always thought you were better than us, she continued. Too good for Michigan, too sophisticated for family gatherings, too important for anything but your precious career. I built a career I'm proud of. I defended. How does that translate to thinking I'm better than you? You never wanted the life we provided, Dad jumped in. Nothing was ever good enough for you. Not our house, not our vacations, not the state college we could afford. So this is punishment for ambition, for wanting something different than what you chose. This is about fairness, Dad insisted. You don't need Grandma's money. Rachel and Jason do. They have families to support. Rachel works part-time at a boutique while Brad jumps between sales jobs. Jason can barely keep steady employment. They're adults who've made their choices just like I made mine. You owe this family, Mom said coldly. We raised you, supported you. Supported me? I laughed incredulously. I deferred college to care for you during cancer treatment, while Rachel and Jason continued their normal lives. I lost a full scholarship. I graduated with debt while you helped them through private college and athletic pursuits. That was your choice, Dad dismissed. Yes, it was. A choice to help family because I loved you. Something I'm now realizing was never reciprocated. The conversation spiraled into a revelation of long-standing resentments I'd never recognized. They'd viewed my success not with pride, but as a personal affront. My close relationship with Grandma Rose wasn't seen as natural kinship, but as calculated positioning. My move to Chicago wasn't professional advancement, but personal rejection of them. When exactly did you start hating me? I finally asked, voice breaking, despite my determination to remain strong. We don't hate you, Mom sighed. We just think you've had advantages the others didn't. What advantages working through college? Building my career without family connections. Moving away from everyone I love for professional growth. You had Grandma, Dad said simply. She always favored you from the time you were little. Do you have any idea what that did to Rachel and Jason? To their self-esteem, to us as parents? Suddenly, decades of family dynamics came into sharp focus. Their permissiveness with my siblings, the lack of consequences for their poor choices, the constant undermining of my achievements. It was all an attempt to balance what they perceived as Grandma's favoritism. So you decided to rewrite Grandma's will as some twisted form of parental justice. We decided to ensure all our children were treated fairly, Dad corrected. By lying to Grandma, by making her believe I'd abandoned her, by giving her unnecessary medication to confuse her. That was for her anxiety, Mom maintained, though her eyes slid away from mine. The anxiety that mysteriously appeared when you started poisoning her against me. Quite the coincidence. Dad stood suddenly. I don't have to listen to these accusations in my own house. No, you don't, I agreed, rising as well. Just like I don't have to pretend we're a family anymore. Tomorrow at Grandma's birthday, I'm bringing all of this into the open. I've already consulted attorneys about elder abuse charges. You wouldn't dare, Mom whispered. Watch me. One more thing. When exactly did Grandma sign the new will Jason mentioned yesterday? Their shared glance confirmed it. You're too late, Dad said. It's done. Legal and binding. We'll see about that. I moved toward the door. Undue influence tends to invalidate wills in court, and I have excellent documentation of exactly that. As I reached for the doorknob, Mom called after me. Cassandra, if you do this, if you pursue legal action, you're no longer our daughter. I turned back, a strange calm settling over me. You stopped treating me like your daughter the moment you decided to destroy my relationship with Grandma. I'm just making it official. As I pulled out of the driveway, my father watched from the porch, my mother behind him. They were strangers now, people who shared my DNA, but not my values. People who had orchestrated the systematic destruction of my most treasured relationship, out of jealousy and resentment. I needed to see Grandma immediately before they could interfere further. But first, I made a call to Miranda. Don't let them give Grandma any medication tonight, I instructed. I'm coming over first thing tomorrow before the party. And Miranda, don't tell anyone about this call. My hotel room felt cold and empty that night. I'd lost my entire family in a single day, or rather discovered they'd been lost to me for much longer than I'd realized. The only person left was Grandma Rose, and I needed to reach her before it was too late. I woke before dawn, reviewing my strategy. Grandma Rose was an early riser, always up by 6 a.m. for coffee on her sun porch. If I arrived by 7, I might have time with her before my parents could interfere. As I drove through the quiet morning streets, my phone exploded with texts and calls from family members. Clearly, my parents had mobilized everyone overnight. Rachel, Mom, and Dad are devastated. Please don't do this. Jason, you've lost your mind. We're contacting your firm about your mental stability. Dad, your grandmother doesn't need this stress. Stay away. The most telling was from Mom. We've arranged for extra security at the party. Don't embarrass yourself by showing up. So they'd escalated to barring me from my own grandmother's birthday celebration. Fine. I'd see her before the party even began. Pulling up to Grandma's Victorian house, I noticed my father's car already in the driveway. They'd anticipated my move. Taking a deep breath, I approached the side entrance, the one leading directly to the kitchen. Miranda had given me the key code years ago for emergencies. As I quietly entered, I heard raised voices from the dining room. I don't understand why Cassandra can't come to my birthday, Grandma's voice sounding confused and upset. Mom, we've been through this, my father replied with exaggerated patience. Cassandra called last night. She has an important client meeting in Chicago and sends her regrets. Another lie. My blood boiled. But she always comes for my birthday. Always. Well, things change, Mom interjected. People change. Now take your morning medication so we can get ready for your party. I stepped into the doorway. She doesn't need that medication. 3 heads snapped toward me. Grandma Rose, looking smaller and frailer than I remembered, brightened immediately. Cassandra, you made it. My parents' expressions darkened dangerously. Dad stood blocking my path to Grandma. You need to leave. Now. I'm not going anywhere until I speak with Grandma. Richard, Mom warned, she'll upset your mother. Remember her heart. What's happening? Grandma looked between us, confusion clouding her features. Why is everyone acting so strangely? Because they've been lying to you, Grandma, I said, keeping my voice gentle despite my anger. They've been intercepting my calls and gifts, making you think I've been neglecting you. That's absurd, Dad scoffed. Mom, she's having some kind of breakdown. The pressure in Chicago must be too much. I approached slowly, pulling out my phone. Grandma, I have something to show you. Evidence of what they've been doing. Dad moved to intercept me, but Miranda stepped in from the kitchen doorway. Mr. Mitchell, I think your mother should hear what Cassandra has to say. Stay out of this, he snapped. You work for us. Actually, Miranda corrected, I work for Mrs. Rose Mitchell. And I've seen enough concerning behavior to believe Cassandra's claims. This unexpected ally gave me the opening I needed. I reached Grandma's side, kneeling beside her chair. Grandma, I've never missed our calls. I've never canceled visits. I've never stopped loving you or wanting to be part of your life. Her trembling hand touched my cheek. But they said. They showed me messages. Fake all of them. I can prove it. Over the next 15 minutes, despite my parents' increasingly desperate interruptions, I showed Grandma selected evidence of their manipulation, just enough to make my case without overwhelming her. The forged emails from the account, one letter off from mine. The intercepted flower deliveries confirmed by the florist. The group chat screenshots discussing how to keep us apart. Grandma's face crumpled with each new revelation. But why, she asked, looking at her son. Richard, why would you do this? Before he could answer, Grandma suddenly clutched her chest, her breathing becoming labored. Now look what you've done, Mom accused, rushing to Grandma's side. Call an ambulance. The next hour passed in a blur. Paramedics arrived, stabilized Grandma, and transported her to Detroit Memorial Hospital. I followed in my car while Miranda promised to lock up the house and meet us there. At the hospital, my parents tried to prevent me from seeing Grandma, claiming I'd caused her condition. Actually, the ER doctor corrected after assessing her. Mrs. Mitchell shows signs of overmedication. Her symptoms are consistent with too high a dosage of anti-anxiety medication, possibly combined with other sedatives. My accusation of medication tampering had been correct. I provided the doctor with my documentation, including Miranda's statement about the medication routine my mother had established. I'd like to speak with Mrs. Mitchell alone, the doctor said firmly to my parents. And hospital security has been notified about the family situation. While the doctor evaluated Grandma, I waited in the hall, maintaining visual contact through the room's window. My parents huddled nearby with Rachel and Jason, who had arrived shortly after us. Their whispered conversation and hostile glances made their plotting obvious. An hour later, the doctor emerged. Your grandmother is stable but needs to remain hospitalized for observation. The good news is that once the medications clear her system, her confusion should improve significantly. Can I see her? I asked. She's asking for you specifically, the doctor confirmed. But keep it brief. She needs rest. As I entered Grandma's room, Rachel tried to follow. A nurse blocked her path. Family members will need to take turns, she explained. Miss Mitchell first, as requested by the patient. Grandma looked pale against the white hospital linens, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been at the house. My girl, she said, weakly extending her hand. I feel like I'm waking from a strange dream. I took her hand, fighting back tears. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I had no idea what they were doing. Neither did I, she sighed. All those months thinking you'd forgotten me changed. Never, I vowed. You're the most important person in my life. She squeezed my hand. They had me sign papers yesterday. A new will. I was confused, but Richard insisted it was necessary. We'll fix it, I promised. Once you're feeling better. A commotion outside the door interrupted us. Jason was arguing loudly with hospital security. That's my grandmother. You can't keep family away. Grandma's expression hardened, a glimpse of her formidable personality breaking through the medication haze. Cassandra in my purse. The small zippered pocket inside. There's a key. I found the key, small antique with an ornate design. My safety deposit box at First National, she explained. Box 247. There's another will there. The real one. I never fully trusted their sudden interest in my estate planning. Call Franklin Myers, my attorney, not that young man your father brought yesterday. Before I could respond, a security guard entered. Miss Mitchell, your family is causing a disturbance. We need to remove them from the floor for the patient's well-being. Through the doorway, I could see my parents being escorted toward the elevators, Rachel filming the scene on her phone while Jason argued with a nurse. They'll be back, I said. With reinforcements. Grandma's expression was resolute despite her weakened state. Then we need to move quickly. The truth needs to come out before they can cause more damage. As I left her room, my brother broke away from security and approached me. This isn't over, he threatened quietly. You think you can turn Grandma against her own children and grandchildren? We'll have you evaluated for mental instability. Your firm will hear about this. Try it, I replied calmly. Every action you take just gives me more evidence of your conspiracy. I watched them leave, knowing this battle was far from over. But for the first time since discovering their betrayal, I felt hope. Grandma knew the truth now. We had a chance to repair what they had so methodically destroyed. As I returned to Grandma's room, my phone chimed with an email. My mother had already contacted my firm accusing me of unstable behavior and elder exploitation. They were escalating their attacks, desperate to discredit me before I could fully expose their scheme. The war for truth and for Grandma's well-being had just begun. The days following Grandma's hospitalization unfolded like a legal thriller, except I was living it, not watching from a comfortable distance. My first action was retrieving the contents of Grandma's safety deposit box with Franklin Myers, her longtime attorney. Inside was exactly what she had promised. A properly executed will dated 18 months earlier, leaving the lake house and half her financial assets to me, with the remainder divided between Rachel and Jason. This is the will she wanted, Franklin confirmed. We spent months discussing her wishes before finalizing it. I was shocked when Richard called, claiming Rose wanted changes. They manipulated her, I explained, showing him my evidence. Medication, isolation, lies. Franklin reviewed my documentation grimly. This is deeply troubling. The new will your father pushed through won't stand up to legal scrutiny with this evidence of undue influence, but challenging it will be messy. I'm prepared for messy, I assured him. What I wasn't prepared for was the scorched earth campaign my family launched. Within 48 hours, they filed for emergency guardianship of Grandma Rose, claiming she was mentally incapacitated and being manipulated by her granddaughter for financial gain. The filing included affidavits from my parents, siblings, 3 extended family members, and even our family doctor attesting to Grandma's confusion and my concerning behavior. Judge Patricia Winters granted a temporary order barring me from contacting Grandma while the guardianship petition was evaluated. Hospital security received copies of the order, effectively cutting me off completely. Meanwhile, my family didn't stop at legal maneuvers. They moved to the court of public opinion. Rachel, always social media savvy, created a carefully edited video showing me intimidating my family at the hospital. She posted it with a heartfelt caption about protecting our vulnerable grandmother from exploitation. The video went viral in our extended social circles. Childhood friends, college classmates, even some professional contacts sent concerned messages asking about my situation. Several suggested I seek help. The professional attacks were even more damaging. My mother's email to my firm prompted an internal review. Though I had taken personal leave to handle the family emergency rumors spread among colleagues, clients began calling, questioning whether their accounts were safe with me. My manager Anthony called with unwelcome news. Cassandra, I need you to extend your leave. We've received multiple concerning communications about your situation, and until it's resolved, the firm thinks it's best you step back from client accounts. This is a coordinated attack, I explained desperately. My family is trying to discredit me because I discovered their elder abuse scheme. His silence spoke volumes. From his perspective, which stories seemed more plausible? That a successful financial advisor had a mental break and was exploiting her grandmother, or that an entire family had orchestrated an 18-month conspiracy of manipulation and fraud? Without access to grandma or my career, I felt my foundations crumbling. Franklin filed objections to the guardianship, petition, and motions to invalidate the new will, but legal wheels turned slowly. Meanwhile, Grandma remained in the hospital surrounded by the very people who had manipulated her. The preliminary guardianship hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks, out an eternity in a situation where evidence could be destroyed and a vulnerable elderly woman further influenced. Miranda provided my only connection to Grandma, texting updates when she could visit. According to her reports, Grandma was asking for me constantly, but being told I was too busy to visit. The same lies recycled. 3 days after the hospital confrontation, I hit another wall. My carefully gathered digital evidence, the screenshots, recovered emails, financial records disappeared from my cloud storage account. The backup drive in my hotel room also went missing after a suspicious maintenance check while I was meeting with Franklin. Someone had accessed my accounts and stolen physical evidence. Fortunately, I had provided copies to both Franklin and Margaret Wilson, the elder law specialist, but the violation left me paranoid and sleepless. By the end of the first week, the strain began taking a physical toll. I developed migraines, lost 8 pounds, and started experiencing panic attacks. Each day brought new attacks from my family. An anonymous call to my landlord in Chicago claiming I was subletting illegally. A formal complaint to the Financial Regulatory Board alleging client fund mismanagement. Calls to mutual friends spreading rumors about substance abuse problems. A police wellness check at my hotel, triggered by claims I was suicidal. The morning of day 10, I reached my breaking point. Judge Winters denied our emergency motion for an independent medical evaluation of Grandma, accepting my family's doctor's assessment instead. The same doctor who had prescribed the unnecessary medication. "I don't understand," I told Franklin, voice breaking. "They're clearly manipulating the system. Why can't anyone see it?" "They present a united front," he explained gently. 5 family members versus 1. They've established a narrative that's easier for outsiders to accept than a complex conspiracy. So truth doesn't matter. Evidence doesn't matter. Both matter, but in family court, perception and stability often matter more. Your parents present as concerned caregivers with a consistent story supported by multiple witnesses. I left his office in a daze, driving aimlessly through familiar neighborhoods. My phone buzzed constantly, more family members I'd rarely spoken to, now calling to express concern about my breakdown. More colleagues distancing themselves from the controversy. More friends choosing sides. By evening, I found myself at the lake house, now empty and locked. Through the windows, I could see the familiar rooms where we'd once gathered as a family. The dock where Grandma and I had watched sunsets. The kitchen where she'd taught me to make her famous blueberry pie. All of it potentially lost along with my career reputation, and most painful of all, my relationship with Grandma Rose. Sitting on the beach as darkness fell, I considered giving up. Maybe if I walked away, left Michigan, and never returned, they would at least treat Grandma well in her remaining years. Maybe destroying me had been their primary goal all along, with the inheritance as secondary motivation. As the temperature dropped, my phone battery died, leaving me truly alone with my thoughts. The magnitude of what I'd lost overwhelmed me. My family had never been perfect, but they had been mine. Now I had no one. I must have fallen asleep on the beach because I woke to dawn light and a figure approaching from the direction of the boathouse. For a moment, I feared it was security or police coming to arrest me for trespassing. Instead, it was Agnes, the elderly caretaker, who maintained the lake house during the off-season. "Miss Cassandra, is that you? My goodness, you look terrible." Her frankness startled a laugh from me, the first in days. Agnes, what are you doing here so early? Morning checks, same as always. She studied me closely. You've been sleeping outside. Come in for coffee at least. I started to explain that the house was locked, but Agnes waved dismissively, producing a key from her pocket. Mrs. Rose made sure I always had access. Said someone reliable needed to watch over the place with all the family drama. Inside, as she prepared coffee in the familiar kitchen, Agnes chatted about maintenance issues and upcoming seasonal preparations. The normality was both comforting and surreal given my circumstances. Your grandmother called me last week, she mentioned casually. Asked me to check something in her bedroom desk. I nearly dropped my mug. You spoke with Grandma. When? Tuesday evening. Used the caretaker's phone, she said. Didn't want the call on the regular line. Miranda must have helped her make a call without my family knowing. Agnes, what did she ask you to check? Old recording device in her desk drawer. Wanted to make sure it was still there and the tapes were secure. Recording device, my pulse quickened. Did you find it? Agnes nodded. Right where she said. One of those voice-activated recorders. Been there for months, she said. Hope flared for the first time in days. Agnes, I need to see it. She hesitated. Your grandmother said to keep it safe until she or you came for it personally. Said there might be people trying to find it. Please, I begged. It could be critical evidence. My family has been manipulating Grandma, medicating her to confuse her, lying about me. Agnes studied me for a long moment before nodding slowly. I suspected something wasn't right. Mrs. Rose would talk about you not visiting, but I'd seen your car here days. She claimed you never came. She set down her coffee. Wait here. She returned minutes later with a small digital recorder and a notebook. Recorder in the desk notebook under her mattress. Said they go together. The notebook contained Grandma's handwriting, dates, times, and brief descriptions of conversations. The earliest entry was from 14 months ago. March 15, Richard and Diane visited. Claimed Cassandra canceled our lunch again. Started recording after they left. With trembling hands, I connected the recorder to my phone charger and pressed play. Grandma's voice emerged clear and strong, so different from her recent confused state. I'm starting these recordings because something doesn't add up. Richard claims Cassandra canceled our lunch 3 times this month, but when I called her office directly, they said she'd taken the afternoons off as planned. Someone is lying, and I intend to find out who. I fast-forwarded through hours of recordings, finding conversation after conversation, where my parents and siblings systematically poisoned Grandma against me. In one particularly damning session, my mother discussed medication with Jason. Make sure she takes the extra pill before Cassandra might call. Dr. Patterson says it will make her too drowsy to remember conversations clearly. Is that safe? Jason had asked. It's prescribed, isn't it? Besides, it's temporary, just until the will is changed. Tears streamed down my face as I realized Grandma had been gathering her own evidence all along. She hadn't been as confused or manipulated as they thought. Even at 84, she'd been sharp enough to recognize something was wrong and take measures to document it. The most recent recording, from just days before her birthday, captured a conversation between Grandma and Rachel. I'm signing the papers tomorrow, Grandma said, voice weak but determined. But I want to be clear about something. This isn't what I want. Grandma, we've discussed this. It's the fair thing to do. You're manipulating me. All of you. I'm signing because I'm tired of fighting, not because I agree. You're confused again. Let me get your medication. The recording ended there, but it was enough. Grandma had explicitly stated the new will didn't represent her wishes, and the recording captured Rachel's dismissal and reference to medication. I looked up at Agnes, hope burning in my chest. This changes everything. Agnes nodded. Your grandmother is smarter than they give her credit for. Always has been. As I carefully gathered the evidence, my dead phone suddenly buzzed to life, connected to Agnes's charger. A message from an unknown number appeared. "This is Miranda, using hospital phone. Urgent. Your grandmother's condition has changed. New doctors involved. Call this number immediately." The battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. With Grandma's own documented evidence, we finally had a chance to expose the truth. I raced back to Detroit with the recordings and notebook secured safely. Before heading to the hospital, I stopped at Franklin's office, where he and Margaret Wilson examined the new evidence. "This is extraordinary," Margaret exclaimed, listening to the medication conversation. "Clear evidence of chemical restraint for financial purposes, a textbook definition of elder abuse. And the recording of your grandmother explicitly stating the will doesn't reflect her wishes," Franklin added. "That alone could invalidate the new document." We immediately prepared emergency motions, submitting Grandma's recordings as evidence. Within hours, Judge Winters reversed her previous ruling, ordering an independent medical evaluation and temporary suspension of my parents' hospital visitation rights. By afternoon, I was finally allowed to see Grandma. The reunion was emotional for both of us. "I knew you wouldn't abandon me," she said, clasping my hands. "No matter what they told me." "I'm so sorry it took me so long to discover what was happening," I replied through tears. "I left breadcrumbs," she smiled weakly. "The recordings, the safe deposit box. I just needed to hold out until you found them." The new medical team confirmed our worst fears. Grandma had been over-medicated for months, likely contributing to confusion and memory issues that had no other medical cause. Once properly regulated, her mental clarity returned dramatically. The legal proceedings accelerated with Grandma's direct testimony and evidence. Judge Winters appointed a court investigator who uncovered even more manipulation than I'd documented, including evidence that Jason had coerced Grandma into writing checks for his business expenses that never existed. 3 weeks after my discovery of the family group chat, we had our day in court. The family guardianship petition was not just denied, but condemned by the judge as a transparent attempt to maintain control over an elderly woman for financial gain. The new will was invalidated, with Grandma's original will reinstated. More significantly, the court granted a restraining order preventing my parents, Rachel and Jason, from contacting Grandma without court approval and supervision. The professional consequences for my family were substantial. My father faced an ethics investigation from the contractors board for misappropriation of funds from Grandma's home repairs. Jason was charged with financial elder abuse for the systematic theft from Grandma's accounts. My mother's nursing license was reviewed for medication tampering. As for me, the firm's investigation cleared my name completely once they reviewed the court findings. Anthony called personally to apologize for doubting me. "We'd like you back as soon as possible," he said. "Your clients have been asking for you." "I need more time," I replied. "Grandma's recovery is my priority now." The most painful fallout was the permanent severing of family ties. My parents and siblings maintained their narrative of me manipulating Grandma, refusing to acknowledge their wrongdoing even when faced with irrefutable evidence. Extended family members and mutual friends divided into camps, many choosing to believe the simpler narrative that I was the problem. 6 months after the courtroom victory, Grandma and I sat on the dock at the lake house, watching the sunset just as we used to. Her health had improved remarkably once freed from unnecessary medication and stress. "What will you do with this place eventually?" she asked, gesturing toward the house behind us. "Keep it in the family just as I promised," I replied, "though my definition of family has changed." She nodded understandingly. Blood doesn't always mean loyalty or love. In the months following the legal battle, I'd built connections with others who had experienced family estrangement and betrayal. Several had become close friends, forming a chosen family more supportive than my biological one had ever been. "I've been thinking," Grandma said, "about turning part of the lake house into a retreat center." "What kind of retreat?" for people healing from family trauma, a place where they can find peace and rebuild. The idea resonated deeply. I love that. The irony is she mused your family's attempt to cut you out of the will, revealed who truly deserved this place, the only one who saw it as more than a financial asset. The lake house had become something more meaningful than an inheritance. It represented resilience, truth, and the possibility of healing, even after profound betrayal. That evening, as we prepared dinner in the kitchen that held so many memories, I reflected on the journey of the past year. I had lost my birth family but gained clarity about what true family means: people who support rather than undermine, who celebrate rather than resent your success, who tell difficult truths rather than comfortable lies. The hardest lesson had been accepting that sometimes the greatest betrayals come from those we expect to love us most. But from that painful knowledge came freedom. Freedom to build authentic relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation or manipulation. As Grandma and I clinked glasses in a toast to new beginnings, I felt peace settle over me for the first time since discovering that fateful group chat. The path forward wasn't perfect or painless, but it was honest. And after everything, honesty felt like the greatest inheritance of all. Have you ever discovered a betrayal that completely changed your perception of someone you trusted? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about family dynamics, healing, and finding strength in unexpected places. Remember that sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we're born into. Thank you for listening, and I hope my journey helps you navigate your own challenging relationships. Stay strong.